So after being recently encouraged by seeing other people talk about some of their favourite characteristics of God, it got me really thinking about what I know without doubt in my heart to be true about God, about who he is to me and his fundamental character and his nature. And the number one truth about who God is for me is that he is first and foremost a father. It's who he introduces himself as and how he identifies himself all throughout his word. In Ephesians 3:14, Paul begins his prayer, "For this reason I kneel before the Father, from whom every family in heaven and on earth derives its name." So even if you don't know him yet as Father, he is your Father too. And he's personal and relational, but his heart towards us is always that of a father. And he is the ultimate and perfect Father who offers truly unconditional love. As Paul says further on in his prayer for the Ephesians, it's a love that can't be measured or contained because it surpasses knowledge. We as human beings can't get our heads around it because God doesn't love like we do. And you don't have to do anything to be worthy to receive it, but just come as you are. Just like when natural parents have a baby, they don't only start loving and providing for that baby after they start doing things for them. And even in their human limitations, there isn't much they wouldn't do for that baby the second they're born. And it really is the same with us and our Heavenly Father. And it's funny because over the past few weeks I keep on being reminded about something I've once heard said when someone was really trying to get across his point about God being our Father, which I feel really prompted to share, as it really helps me to understand his heart towards me and my identity. So a lady was sharing about how her son was absolutely desperate for a smartphone for his birthday. It was all he really wanted. I think he was moving up in school and all the other kids had one. And her and her husband kept on saying they didn't think it would be possible. They couldn't really afford it. But he kept on and pleading with them. And so eventually, without telling him, they went out and bought him a phone. And on his birthday, they disguised the phone in a big box. And when he opened it and realised what it was, he was absolutely ecstatic. He was running around the house, screaming, just absolutely thrilled. He had totally unexpectedly been given this thing he so desperately wanted. But what was even funnier for them to see as parents was the reaction of his little brother, who, when he saw what they'd done for him, also began running around the house screaming, just as delighted as if he'd just received a phone in that moment as well. Because as far as he was concerned, he now knew without doubt that actually he had also got a phone in the bag at some point, because that kid also knew that they were absolutely crazy about him too. He knew he was a son, and that gave him an unshakable confidence that they would do the same for him when the time was right and it was his turn. And this is such a picture of what it's like with us when we see through this perspective as God as our Father, because we too are a son or daughter in God's family, and the goodness of God to his children is fully on display to us throughout his word and through his church, through other people's breakthroughs, blessings and testimonies, which then become part of our own and also set a precedent, giving us this unshakable confidence that God really has good things in store for all of us. And in fact, Paul's prayer ends in Ephesians with him declaring God is even able to do immeasurably more than we could ask or imagine. And this is so important to remember, especially during difficult times. And these past 12 months have been extremely challenging and difficult and full of heartbreak and disappointment for so many. So if you feel overlooked by God or forgotten, please know that you haven't been. We can all be absolutely confident and secure that an all-knowing, all-loving and all-powerful Father sees us, has every single detail of our life in his hands, and is deeply committed to being involved, moving and working in our circumstances, and in his timing has promised good things for all of us, and a hope and a future.